Okay, so we're live, and Lev, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today. Um, I haven't seen you since we haven't done one of these since you were just beginning your Substack, and I'm just in awe. It's been so successful, Lev. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think you were the first live we did. I think
Yeah.
I think you were the first live. I remember when Aaron called me and said, Dad, you gotta get on Substack because I was on Twitter or X, whatever they call it, and then everybody left X, went to Blue Sky, and I was like, I'm not a technology or social media savvy, so I was like, where do we go? And Aaron goes, Dad, you gotta come to Substack. And I remember me and you did the first live, and I was didn't even know what we were doing, what I was doing. I mean, but yeah, it's been just an incredible ride, and it's an incredible community. And I feel this has become like a family more than more than even a family, a movement. Like this is
Mm.
really like I feel truly has become like the resistance to what we're dealing with, the authoritarianism and the dictatorship and the cover-ups and all of this corruption that we're dealing with. I feel that Substack has become like that last resort that Donald Trump hasn't been able to demolish or shut up, or and it's like right now this is where all the independent journalists have come. I mean, because you don't get the news on CNN, or I remember how we met. You used to be on
Yeah.
CNN, Vicky.
Yes, I
Remember
did.
me and you. So just so
We should
everybody
actually
knows,
probably tell everyone tuning in a little
yeah.
bit about people probably don't know.
You want me to tell him? You want me to tell him?
Yes, go
All
on.
right, let me tell. So Vicky used to work for CNN as a correspondent, and back in the first impeachment, a lot of you already probably forgot. A lot of you might have been too young that don't remember, and a lot of you might have just forgot because there's a lot going on. But in the first impeachment, there was a gentleman, a congressman at the time. His name was Devin Nunes. Devin
Mhm.
Nunes was the head of the impeachment committee. He was the chair. He was also one of the most loyal congressmen at the time. He's the CEO of Trump's Truth Social, and he has left. But he was a congressman out of California, and he had a right hand and a left hand. His left hand was what's his name? He was with me. Derek Harvey.
Yeah.
Derek Harvey was and his right hand was Kash Patel, who is now your FBI director. So Devin Nunes at the time was doing a shadow diplomacy behind the back of the Democrats who were in control of the House, of investigating the whole. Who got involved into the Trump? Oh, I'm sorry, my dog.
It's a
Sorry,
good job.
let me close the door because otherwise, I'm sorry, guys.
um,
Sorry, but that's what live Substack live.
well, exactly. You want raw and authentic journalism, you've got it.
You've got it.
So yes, go on, Lev. So
Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah, so here I am, and during the whole before the impeachment happened, I happened to be the one that those of you that don't know that Donald Trump sent to Ukraine to be the lead person of digging up this dirt, manufacturing dirt on the Bidens, and pushing it through here in the United States. So during that time, I worked for Congressman Devin Nunes and Derek Harvey. We set up interviews with Ukrainian prosecutors, and one of them had to happen to be Shokin, the actual Victor Shokin, the actual prosecutor that happened to say that Joe Biden fired him because he was going to look into Hunter Biden, and he happened to tell me that he met with Devin Nunes in Vienna, and that's why we never set up the actual. He was the only one that we didn't do the video because he said he's already met him. So now fast forward it. Here's the impeachment coming up right now. The impeachment's happening. Devin Nunes is there. What you don't know at the time, because I couldn't tell anybody, but Devin Nunes has sent a letter to the DOJ and to the FBI to say that I'm a liar, that I'm a Russian spy, that I cannot to seal all the documents to make sure, because he was scared that it would come out that he had a relationship with me, that I was working for them, because they were trying to paint me out to be a Russian spy. So Vicky, as a good journalist that she is, finds my lawyer, contacts me, and she goes, "Listen, Lev," she goes, "I have these sources, and I need to." It was Devin Nunes, because Devin Nunes went on a trip to Europe, and in the congressional, because the Democrats controlled the House, they had to tell him where he was going. So I don't remember exactly, but he said he was going to the Middle East or somewhere, but he ended up on that trip going to Vienna and seeing Victor Shokin. So Vicky was hot on the trail. She had some sources that were telling her this is happening. She calls me up. She goes, "Do you know anything about it?" And I go, "I do." I go, "Not only do I'll go on the record. I'll tell you exactly what I know about it. This happened." So Vicky broke the story. It was a huge thing. What happened, what a lot of people don't know, because Vicky broke the story, later on, within a week later, Adam Schiff went and subpoenaed Devin Nunes' phone records. And during the impeachment, for those of you that never saw it, you should go. I might write a Substack letter, just bring back the history and put that. You should go, because this is history that you've never seen. During the impeachment, you have Devin Nunes, who's the head of the impeachment committee, sitting there, and Eric Swalwell asks him a question. He goes, "Do you know who Lev Parnas is?" And he goes, "No, I've never met him. I've never spoken to him." He goes, "I'd like to put into the record this CNN by Vicky Ward, or whatever, that he says that you met him, and this whole thing." And it becomes this whole thing. Devin Nunes goes on this whole rampage on Fox, saying it wasn't me. He didn't speak to me. He spoke to my wife. He did this. He doesn't know. And then all of a sudden, Adam Schiff brings out the phone records. He goes, "We have the records. You spoke to Lev Parnas on this day for 2 minutes. After that, you called the White House. After that, you called Rudy Giuliani. After that, you called Lev Parnas again and spoke to him for 8 minutes." And he blew it all up. And still, Donald Trump got off and didn't get impeached. So, I mean, this is just a little fact. So that's how me and Vicky met. And then, to make matters worse, Devin Nunes, like Donald Trump, why they get along so well, went and sued us. He sued CNN. He sued Vicky Ward. He sued me. He sued my lawyer for over 300 million. Was it, Vicky? Was it something
It
like
was, it was a
something
lot
like
of money.
$300 million. He went to sue us. We're laughing at now, but it hurt Vicky a lot, because CNN, you stopped working. They had to they let you go, right? I think, or you stopped
No, no,
working.
no, no, no. It
What
was
happened?
nothing to do with that.
Not with
No, no.
CNN.
And they
No,
aggressively defended me. I
they,
left to
they
go
did
and
though. No, they did
yeah, no, no.
aggressively.
I left to
You
go
know,
and work
it
on
was
the
just coincidence. Okay, I didn't know that.
yeah.
So
No, that
yeah,
wasn't. But it
I
was.
thought.
But it was a. It's never helpful when things like this happen.
But we won. We
Yeah,
won.
we do.
We,
That's the headline. Yeah, no. I left because if you remember, Lev, it was COVID hit,
yes.
and in my life, what happened so was that Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested. Jeffrey
That's
Epstein
right.
had
That was the
died
same
the
time. That's
previous
right.
summer, and then Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested, and that's when I um was actually very generously, let out of my deal by Jeff Zucker, and I then partnered with James Patterson to make this Audible series called Chasing Ghislaine, because I was sitting on these transcripts of Jeffrey Epstein. So that's what happened. But then,
Wow,
but then,
I'm
but
glad.
the
I'm glad you're telling me. I had no idea. See, this is
yeah,
this is
yeah, no,
actually
yeah.
good.
So,
Awesome.
and we made a documentary of that for Discovery Plus, and then obviously James Patterson and I have continued over time to work together. And my memory of Lev was I just remember thinking it was so unfair, that in this story where no one was telling the truth, the person who was made to pay the price was you. And I remember sitting in the courtroom, watching you, and I think your wife might have been pregnant even, or you had a very small bump beside it, or you had yes, and gosh, shows how fast time flies, because I remember Todd Blanche in that courtroom
Yeah.
as the defense attorney for one of your associates.
So,
I mean, Yeah.
Originally he was supposed to be my lawyer. When I fired him, Igor kept him on. And remember, Todd Blanche was the one that fought so hard for me not to give the congressional turn over all the stuff to Congress. He was already then defending Donald Trump. That's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
Go back then, yeah. Wow, that's right,
So
Vicky.
I remember all this well. So anyway, Lev, I'm thrilled um, that your Substack is so successful, well deserved. And no one better to talk to now about Ukraine and Russia, and no one better to talk to. Also, we should talk about Epstein and the Epstein files.
Absolutely.
Do you have a preference which order we do it?
I'm all yours, Vicky. You're the boss.
Well, why don't we tackle the Russia and Ukraine
Yeah,
first?
that.
Um, I know that you have very strong opinions that Putin has basically played this like a brilliant sort of chess grandmaster, right? And that Trump has played right into his hands. Um,
Well, it's a combination, Vic. It's a combination. That's why people need to understand, because on the outskirts, it looks like Trump is losing and being played like a fool, and he is being played a fool because, and that's part of the game. But the real negotiations that are happening behind the scenes and what Trump is getting out of it is a lot more than a win with the media by saying that he got over on Putin, because what Putin is giving him, and one of the biggest things that we're going to talk about is the cover up with the Epstein files. What's happening right now? Because Vicky, if you recall, right when this Trump announced that they're going to have this meeting with Putin, the moment that he changed the news cycle, that was the only way he was
no,
able to
sure.
change the news cycle. He tried everything. He tried
Yeah,
everything. But what people don't know, it wasn't Trump's idea to do it. It was Vladimir Putin's offer to Trump through Steve Witkoff. When Witkoff was sitting with Putin in the Kremlin, Putin told, because Putin needed this himself. This is coming from sources that were in the room. And basically, Witkoff called Trump and told him, he said, Putin's willing to meet with you right now. This will blow the news cycle, will change everything, and Putin's willing to talk to you about peace. Putin did all of that because he had his own game, and we're going to go into in a second. So when we say this Donald Trump, yes, he's being played as a fool, but he's getting a lot of privilege because not only is he getting deflection from the Epstein stuff, which we'll go into, but he's also getting tremendous deflection from the new. When was the last time you heard the media speak about the National Guard in Washington, D.C.? It's normalizing. It's part of Project
yeah,
2025. It's part of, and the other thing that the media is not even touching on, talking about, they just, disregarded it, saying, oh, he can't do that. And I've heard them say that plenty of time, but he said it out loud yesterday. He's going to do away with mail-in voting. And he even turned around. He said, if I can't do it with the executive, I'm going to get the Congress. I'm going to figure it out, but I'm getting rid of mail-in voting. I'm
yeah.
getting rid of electronic voting machines. I'm having Pam Bondi. So he is winning from a sense point from what his initial, because what Trump is trying to do is mimic and make America into something like a North Korea or Russia or China,
Right.
where everybody, especially the media and the people, bowed down to him. And you saw that play out by him having the European leaders sitting there like a king, sitting there making them grovel and bow. When there was no negotiations. People that were in the room. There was most of it. Everybody in that room understood that Trump is being played. Everybody understood that Putin, but they have no choice because they're hoping. They're playing. They're hope. They don't want to. And so, it's like this game that everybody's playing. Maybe Putin. Maybe, but they know they're planning against it. They see. Because one of the things I say, Vicky, is very important. Don't judge what they say. Watch what they do, and don't listen to what's being reported. Listen to what's not being reported. Those are the key things when it comes to Donald Trump, and because I was there, that's how we did things. This is how it's a typical, perfect, exactly the same thing we did with the Biden stuff. He's doing. He's not. It's not like he's changing the game plan. Some of the players are even the same. You know what I'm saying to you? I mean, if you think about it really hardly, Vicky, back then I was Steve Witkoff. Steve Witkoff is the new Lev Parnas, basically. You know, he's basically using it. I
I
mean,
love
I
that.
mean, because think about it. I was involved in Venezuela. I was involved in Turkey. I was involved.
Yeah,
Steve Witkoff's all over the place. We just didn't have. I didn't have the same power that Witkoff has now because Trump has become smarter in a way. Smarter when I mean knowing the power he has to do. Because even back then, I remember when we were talking when I was a couple of times going to UK. We were talking about, hey, why doesn't he just make me an ambassador or make me a special
right.
envoy or make me so this way we don't have to go? And back then we were scared that the deep state, we were scared that they were going to target me because if they would find out I'm working for Trump as a special envoy, they would discredit me. They would blow me up in the media. They'd bring out my past that I had connections to people from my past. You know what I'm saying to you? So no, we
Yeah,
had to keep it secret. Now Trump doesn't care about that. Now we know Witkoff's background. We know his ties to Blavatnik and to Golubchik and to all of these Russian oligarchs from going back tens of years. But he doesn't care. He's a special envoy, and he does. Just think about this, Vicky. How many people in the history? I've known about Putin for over maybe 40 years. I'm 53, since probably maybe a little. I'm lying. 35 years since I was 18 years old. And I could tell you, I don't know anybody that's met Putin 5 times in 6 months. I mean, just think about that. Steve Witkoff,
right.
because Steve Witkoff became their extension, their megaphone. The other thing you gotta understand, the way business is done over there, and you know very well because you know you've spoken to some of the people, you know some of the people that I know and associates, billionaires and
Yeah.
oligarchs that live in that world. Before Witkoff even goes sees anybody in the Kremlin, think about how many meetings he had with proposals and all kinds of business deals and all kinds of information because people just want to be close to him and want to be friendly and want to because all this was for Russia, it was getting back into the world stage. It was
Mm.
getting back into the financial stage. It was never about peace. It was never about what? For Trump, he sees grandeurs of money, power. He feel, you know what I'm saying to you. So for him, it's an easy sell because for him, the lust of money and power and the dangling the carrots, the minerals, the oils, the deal, you know what I'm saying to you. Just think about this. It's been reported, and I don't know the exact numbers. You might know better that the Trump family has made over X amount of billions of dollars, $3, $4 billion in the past 6 months since he's been president. That's an insane amount of money. But it didn't happen because Don Jr. or Eric all of a sudden became brain so smart overnight. I call them Tweedledee and Tweedledum. They couldn't get past their own what's it called in front of each other. They'd fall over each other to make a money. But you know who they're partner with? A gentleman by
Whitcock
the name
son.
of Zach Witkoff. Exactly, because that's the whole point. Connect the dots. So,
Yeah,
so here you have Steve Witkoff running around the Middle East, running around Eastern Europe, running around controlling all these negotiations. And then you have Zach Witkoff running around with Don Jr. and Eric in the same places, in the same
yeah,
fields, in the same world.
yeah,
And you got billions of dollars going. So what I'm saying to you, it's all about the money. So
yeah.
yes, the world's but for Trump, it's a little bit bigger now than money because it's the Epstein cover up. It's the
And I want to get to that, but my one question, and I asked the Russian journalist Mikhail Zygar this on Monday, is was it not though the one development that I did think was new was the talk about security guarantees when the European leaders came and that America would provide air power. So go on. So tell me why I'm wrong on that.
That was part of the theatrics because let me explain to you, and they all knew it going into it, and that's why today in the morning Trump already blew it all up, saying that no, there's. So yesterday, if you go back and remember the way the conversations were going, they were leaking from the meetings. You had leaks coming out that they're going to do some kind of like Article 5
Yeah.
protection. They're talking about Trump's even talking about maybe troops on the ground, and then
Mhm.
all of this stuff was leaking because I was on these social media platforms, and you would see all the mega going crazy, troops on the ground, this, that. It was going back and forth. And I even had a debate with somebody. I said, because one of my sources told me that this is all bullshit, that you'll see tomorrow it's going to be a different ball game because, and I'll get to it. So I was even in a debate saying there's not going to be troops on the ground. Trump's going to walk everything back. This is all theatrics and being played because, again, for Trump, he is still covering up the Epstein stuff because and when we get to the Epstein stuff, because I keep mentioning it, it's not just the Epstein stuff, it's Dan Bongino. He has
Mm.
a problem. They have a loose cannon in their group. It's called Dan Bongino. When it comes to the Epstein stuff, that was also part of why a lot of the stuff is happening. It's a lot of links that are coming together. Do you understand what I'm saying to you,
I
Vic?
do.
So when it comes to these conversations, you have to understand, there is no conversation about any type of security or protection without a peace deal. Correct? That would be part of the peace deal.
Yes.
So when you see them talking about that, it's like they're assuming that there's some sort of a deal done,
Right.
but they're nowhere near close to a deal because any deal, it has Putin wants land swap or Zelensky doesn't want. So is no deal. So it's not like they came there and they're saying, okay, we have a peace deal that is close to being done on the table. We have a ceasefire happening, and now let's talk about security measures.
Yeah.
That's real. But when you don't have any of that, I mean, they could have sat there yesterday, said whatever they wanted to. It didn't matter because none of it would have made you. It didn't make a difference because at the end of all those conversations, what did they come out and say? That the only way this moves forward is that we need a bilateral first meeting between Vladimir Zelensky and Vladimir Putin because only they could discuss the land situation. So basically, everything that was talked about yesterday went out the window because
It's
now
moved.
it's mute. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And today, hey, and Vicky, I'm sorry. And today, saying there's no troops on the ground. They're not going to be ever part of NATO. Those things were never on the table. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we're back. So today, if you take a look at today and you do a snapshot of 2 weeks ago, right before they announced that they're going to have this meeting, what changed? We're right back where we started from.
Yeah. Yeah.
A-
And
a-
well, worse. I mean, and meanwhile,
Worse, yes,
Putin
worse, worse, worse.
Putin, and the Russians, are killing, are bombing um, Ukraine, which is not something that we've heard President Trump addressing in the last 48 hours. Um, so, what are you hearing from Ukraine, um, Lev? What are your sources telling you about how Zelensky's feeling?
Well, they don't. Or Zelensky, they're also. This is all theatrics. That's why you saw Zelensky come in there with smiles and make
Yeah.
fun of Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend suit, and then because the Europeans also and the Ukrainians know that Trump has given up and is going to sell them out. They're still playing along this political diplomacy and playing theatrics, hoping that maybe because in their mind, see, they don't know Trump very well. So they're
Right.
hoping that in their mind, they're thinking that something could change his mind and he could flip. They don't want to go to those extents and listen to all like the stuff that I might know and combine it together and cut it completely off. So they're giving it still hope. So that's why you see them coming in. You see them making these statements. You see them, talk about it, and you see that, but you see their faces. If you took a look and saw all their faces, there was not one single face except for Zelensky because he's an actor. Zelensky
Yeah.
was acting, laughing, and making
Yeah.
it. But at the end of the day, they know that they're going to continue the war without the United States. They know America is going to walk away. Europe already understands that Ukraine is their line of defense. You know what I'm saying to you, against Russia. And in all honesty, and it's not the same Ukraine it was. See, that's what Trump doesn't understand. Ukraine has built a tremendous army over the past several years. tremendous drones. It's a different warfare,
Yeah.
different. I mean, when people say, "Can Russia?" Yes. I mean, does Russia, if Russia uses nuclear weapons, if Russia uses some kind of unconventional stuff, of course, it's a different ballgame. Nobody's talking about that Russia has certain powers that they could, if they wanted to take out Ukraine. But I don't think the world would allow them to do that. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
Europe or even if America or America, it didn't matter. I don't think there would be countries that would stand up to that. So I don't think Ukraine, from what I'm hearing, this was again nothing, bro. I mean, they're fighting every day. They're planning on moving forward. Strategically, they have some things lined up. I don't want to go too much into. I don't want to.
Mhm.
Outsource, but if you remember Spiderweb, when they had that attack,
Yeah.
I think there's some big news. They're going to be coming soon. Just like today, the media is now reporting on it. Yes, Russia attacked Ukrainian. See, but Russia kills Ukrainian people, civilians. They attack hospitals, buildings. What Ukraine did today, nobody's talking about. They attacked another one of Russia's oil deposits. And one of the things I'm going to write about later in my Substack, right now there's a shortage of gasoline inside of Russia.
Right.
So there's a short.
Right.
Just think about it. There's a shortage of gasoline. So there's like lines, 3, 4, 5 hour lines to get gas. So I mean, this war is not going to end because Donald Trump is telling them, because he thinks it is, but he's lining it up to be able to walk away and blame Zelensky and blame the situation and blame Biden and say, listen, it was, and you hear the words every day. It's the same thing. It's going to be, it was never my war. It was Biden's war.
Yeah.
Biden got into it. He even had Putin come out here and say, just think about that, Vicky. How many, you've been a journalist for so long. Just think about, would you ever think that you would see Vladimir Putin come out and say, I would have never attacked you if Donald Trump was president? I would have that. No, Donald Trump. That, I mean, that's such fiat. That's such a show. That's, I mean, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
for anybody that knows anything about it, it just, I wanted to throw up. You know what I'm saying to you? I wanted to throw up. I was just watching and say, "Are you really care?" Like, because that's what it was for. That whole day he flew in
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and what Vladimir Putin got in return. Because today, Lavrov, Putin, all of them came out. They first of all said that all these talks mean nothing without Russia. You're talking about security without
Yeah.
Russian input on it. So here we are. We're talking about, no. We're talking about security from Russia. And now Russia wants to have a say so in in Ukraine security. Just think about the crazy circle jerk that we keep having.
Yeah.
That's the fact that Trump keeps saying, I'm going to, even Caroline Levitt came out there. No, Putin promised to meet Zelensky. See, they talk because most Americans don't know the history. They don't
Right.
understand that Vladimir Putin doesn't consider Zelensky a legitimate president.
Right.
Part of the reason why they've attacked is because of Zelensky and the Nazi, whatever administration. So part of the reason why what they sold their whole country in Russia is they need to get rid of this administration. So if Putin meets with them, he legitimizes him, and so that's never happening. Not only is
Mm.
it never happening, but they even gave you clues, people. Because yesterday in the presser, when Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend, the one that set up, asked the question to Zelensky, he said to him, he said, "Are you planning on holding an election?" That was a setup for 2 points. It was a setup because the 1 hour, Vicky. Because if you remember, Trump met with Zelensky prior to meeting with everybody else. He one on one. And what my sources are telling me, the reason what was discussed in that meeting, besides other things, one of the things that Trump pushed onto Zelensky is that once there was a peace agreement put in place, that Zelensky would have to do elections right away.
Right.
Right away, have to do elections because part of their plan, Putin's plan that he's using Trump to implement, is to do a regime change.
Yes. Get rid
Which
of it.
he which
Exactly.
he which he tried to do in 2014, which didn't
Yeah.
work out. That's why they had the Maidan. But right now, if all of a sudden they do a cease agreement, let's say on this line, and they do an election between Trump now being and Putin together to rig an election in Ukraine, it would be I could probably do that by now. You know what I'm saying to you? And now all of a sudden you get a pro-Russian, pro-Trump president in Ukraine, and now you don't need to go to war. Now all of a sudden there'll be a deal signed where all of a
Yeah,
sudden
yeah.
the minerals, oil, everything will be given. Peace, lovey-dovey. Everybody's speaking the same language again, and we love. That's what's happening behind the scenes. That's what Trump and Putin are trying to do.
Are you worried about corruption in Ukraine? This is something Mikhail Zygar talked about on Monday. He said he'd been in Europe and, that there are clearly some military elites who are profiting
Oh,
off,
100%.
off the
100%.
wall, driving
100.
Rolls Royces in,
Uh,
the south of
listen,
France.
listen, I'm going to tell you like this. First of all, I don't think there's any country that doesn't have corruption.
Yeah.
Especially us here in the United
Yeah.
States. So when it's how you ask the question: is there corruption in Ukraine? Absolutely. Are there people profiting off the war? Absolutely. Are there people? But that happens in every war. That
Yeah.
happens in every country, and that's something that you deal with, and that's why you see Zelensky constantly putting people in prison,
Yeah.
constantly changing people in the administration, constantly. And that's another thing, by the way, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another thing that was discussed, what my sources tell me, in that 1 hour conversation. The other thing that was pushed onto Zelensky by Trump that Putin told him was to tell him that if Zelensky walks away and gives them the election and just that he could basically like retire here in the United States, do his Hollywood stuff, and there will be no prosecution or nobody will go after him from the Russian or American side or his inner circle for any of the money that might have been misplaced or what's it called or done like that. So that's another conversation that was being had because one of the main things in MAGA world and part of the whole campaign thing was that Zelensky is a crook, that Zelensky is buying himself houses all over the world while we're sending them money. And
Yeah.
that's one of the perception of which is all total bullshit. There are people doing it. I don't believe Zelensky. Zelensky's a wealthy man himself. Prior to that,
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. But
So, yeah.
anything's possible. But is there corruption? Absolutely, there's corruption.
Yeah.
But it's not to a degree where we should not help. It's not to a degree where they should get taken over by Russia. And a lot of the corruption, I'll tell you honestly, is probably being done by people that are pro-Russian.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because it's so intertwined that it's a very difficult situation. So you know
Well, so speaking of corruption, conspiracies, okay, let's talk about Epstein. And I think, my followers know that last week with Zeb Shaleb, I talked about the fact that, I had a good source, close friend of mine who sadly passed away last year, who sat and had tea with Jeffrey Epstein in the last 4 years of his life, and Epstein definitely told him that Vladimir Putin was a client of his. You know, Jeffrey Epstein didn't always tell the truth, but a lot of the bold-faced names he bragged about knowing and dealing with, turn out to be real, as we know. So today, Richard Berman, judge in New York, has refused to unseal
Yep.
the grand jury records. I was not surprised by that. I was more surprised when I read his decision that basically the only witness in that hearing was an FBI agent. And I assume I know who it is because he says in his decision that the FBI agent also testified at Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial. So I found that interesting because it was rather slimmer than I had
I was between me and you. I mean, I was when I read. I didn't read the whole opinion, but I got bits and pieces. And I have a good. I have the best person to update me. My son Aaron. He gave me a quick download, so I got to be able to understand exactly what is going on. And I could tell you this much. First of all, the way he responded to the DOJ and basically said to them that, listen to me, out of 100% of evidence that we have, that you have, the grand jury compiles maybe 0.3% or
Yeah,
3%,
exactly.
some like you said, some minimal amount.
Yeah.
And so the amount, if you want to release it, you could release it. And the other thing he said in there, without quoting him, he said that you're using this as a ploy
Yeah.
to because to lie like to the people, or I mean, I don't want to make you, maybe you could
No,
phrase
no,
it.
well, you didn't quite go that far, but that was I mean, but the
You
implication was that this was grandstanding by the DOJ, who
right,
had,
really bad.
and that the Epstein files that they have would be of far more relevance than, and what he described that the sole witness, an FBI agent who talked about hearsay in this grand jury. So he was basically saying, I'm not going to do it because you haven't established a proper legal reason for me to do it. But if the Department of Justice wants to release the Epstein files, having promised to do it and then not, there is far more information that that of value to people in what the Justice Department has. That's exactly. I mean, that's exactly what he said.
And that's why some of the breaking reporting that I've been doing the past couple of weeks have to do with Dan Bongino, Vicky. Keep the
Right.
like my
So
good
now,
great
I've
friend
read this,
Adam
Lev.
said.
I've read your excellent reporting. So and so he's the outlier. So just to go through this, because it's fascinating. And your latest reporting was that this possible alliance between Dan Bongino and Elon Musk. So Dan Bongino, according to your reporting, he and Cash Patel were the ones drumming up the Epstein um, beat. So, explain for possibly my readers who might not have read what you've reported.
Absolutely. So, for those of you that don't follow, probably Dan Bongino, but he used to be a Secret Service man for actually Obama. And then eventually he became a right-wing media pundit. Trump's first administration started going on Fox News. I know him, met him, was in that same circles. And then he started really going far right, especially after like the January 6th, when Epstein got arrested. He became and used this podcast basically to use at that time the Epstein connection to the deep state, to the child pedophilia, to the Democratic leadership, to the Clintons, and built empire basically on that, from financially to your following to eventually that was one of the reasons why Trump even picked him to be the deputy, him and Cash Patel, because Cash Patel for other reasons, because he's been with Trump since the Devin Nunes days, so Cash Patel has been in there even during
Yeah,
January 6th. So
yeah,
but Dan Bongino was primary because of this whole Epstein stuff, because see, Trump himself, I don't think, realized to himself how much was in there that had tied him into it. And again, I'm not saying that Trump. I don't want to, I don't have proof of Trump actually illegally doing something in the FCL, but
yeah,
we know factually that they were friends. We know
yeah,
factually, in his own words, of the way he treated women, the way that he is factually convicted of assaulting E.G. Carroll. So, I mean, all these things it's not about a smoking gun on Donald Trump, but I don't think he realized how much it would implicate him. and it would take the eye off the Democrats. And I think when Pam Bondi and they came in there, and when they saw that, what I'm hearing from my sources is they came to him and said this: "Listen, boss, this is what, if we release it, this is how it's going to come out." And this is at the same time, because what a lot of people don't realize, who was on the outskirts, it was Elon Musk. This was the same time, and
Well,
that's what.
he just, it is interesting to me, because Elon Musk, as we know, has posted on X from time to time about Epstein, and then taken it down, right?
That was that first tweet when he posted Trump was on the list.
Yeah.
And he took it down, and they made that sort of piece because they literally threatened to go after him, investigate him, take away SpaceX. I mean, there was some serious behind the scenes, serious negotiations going down. And Elon fell into line for a little bit until he came back out and started, talking about third party. And again, when he fixed certain things, whatever. But to make what's going on with Bongino, so what happened was when Bongino found out that July 6th, when Trump, because the cover up happened between Trump and Pam Bondi. Patel wasn't informed, Bongino wasn't informed. I mean, to a degree, like how it's going to happen that's why Pam Bondi basically had the DOJ put out that letter. It wasn't even signed, that memo that leaked, and they put it out on July 6th, which was supposed to be a dead weekend, 4th of July weekend, and they tried to slip it through and bury it.
Yeah.
When Dan Bongino realized it, he had a problem because he made his whole career off it, and he saw the Epstein files. He saw the names, like he saw there's things there. He saw that there's people that need to go down for that, and that doesn't matter Republican or Democrat. And I'm not saying Dan Bongino's a good guy. I'm not saying that I'm not giving you the reasoning why he's doing it. It could be financial, whatever the case. But he was not aligned with them. There was a big fallout between him and Trump. He left. That was when it was reported he left the White House. I mean, and might not return. Trump called him. Till this day, I don't know. I can't tell you factually if it was a threat or if it was some sort of a promise of how Trump got him to stay. But it wasn't because they became friends and they agreed on Bongino staying on for the cover up. But Gino was still against it. If you take a look, Vicky, since that day, he's not once tweeted, responded, or spoke about anything to do with the Epstein. He's made comments about other cases, about things that the FBI is doing, but nothing to do with the Epstein situation, the case that he's been quiet. He's been actually, my sources are telling me, thinking about leaving, and maybe, but he's scared because of the things he knows, knowing the power Trump has of the DOJ, the FBI, and how easily, things could be, shifted in saying, oh, he left with Secret Service paperwork or he leaked. You know how, I don't have to say how
Yeah.
you could indict a ham sandwich, especially if you want to be corrupt. Not that I'm saying they do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with that said, Bongino, my source told me, has been going back and forth. And this is where we come to how we got here. And this is the first story that I really broke that got Trump. That's why I'm having issues with Trump right now, is that the Vance dinner. The Vance dinner was not only supposed to be, because the media jumped on saying this was how Maxwell, because that was part of it. It
Yeah.
was a part of the Maxwell framing. Blanche was supposed to come in there and tell him the framing of the Maxwell testimony. Comer is on board, that whole thing. But what they weren't talking about, which I reported on, was that there were two other people there specifically, Susie Wiles
Mhm.
and Kash Patel. On behalf of Susie Wiles was representing Trump, and
Yeah.
Kash Patel was representing Dan Bongino to speak to Pam Bondi to make
Right.
peace, to get Bongino back on board. When we broke the story and then Vance canceled it, they continued. They still had the meeting inside between Bondi and Patel. They had the meeting with Wiles inside the White House, and they didn't get to a solution because Patel, what's his name? Bongino never gave him a commitment that he's going to, because right now, see, what's going to happen is, you've done a lot of these criminal cases, and once they're gearing up right now, eventually they're going to get Maxwell in front of Comer and Congress and have her start telling her version of the story.
You
And
believe that that will happen? I mean, even though she's pushing back, right, saying her lawyers are pushing back.
it's all a game because her lawyer is in cahoots with Blanche. They're great friends. Even the it's all being played out. That's why you see Mark is constantly going out and tweeting and responding to the media on X, to Trump. Thanking him, being grateful. I mean, this is all theatrics that are again being set up because look, at the end of the day, what proved it was how quickly they transferred her over. I mean,
Right.
that was like, I mean, Vicky, you've been around, shit like this doesn't.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been in prison, and I don't care like that. And anyway, without going into too much about Maxwell right the second, but Bongino wasn't on board, and that's why you saw and they couldn't get him on board during this whole Alaska Putin thing. And
Right.
because they couldn't, that's why they brought in Andrew, what's his last name, Maloney or Andrew from the AG from Missouri, because now
Okay.
you're gonna have now the transition take place where he's gonna because once the Maxwell story comes out, they're gonna need the FBI and everybody to be on the same page. You can't because if Bongino, see what people don't understand, it's not what Bongino says, it's the fact that Bongino's not saying says a lot.
Right.
So
Yeah, I hear you.
you're the
Obviously,
FBI
you
director. Yeah.
yeah. So, Lev, you said you knew Bongino back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, did you like him?
See, when I was there, yes, because we were hardcore, same. I'm saying to you, he was. Let me put it to you this way, but Gino, I didn't see him. He was like a ex cop, like that type of personality. He wasn't. He wasn't a politician.
No.
He was, what I'm saying to you, he was more straightforward, especially back then. He was still beginning. He wasn't so hardcore mega knight. You know what I'm saying to you? He was just transforming into that. So I mean, I didn't see he was to me he wasn't a bad guy. I mean, again, we didn't hang out. We weren't like
Yeah.
friends, but we were in the same circles. I saw him as somebody that was passionate to speak at that time truth to power about the deep state.
Right. Huh.
How how
Wow.
how crazy that is, right?
Right. So your interpretation then of now what the documents that the oversight committee, James Comer is, we're supposed to, I think, see something by tomorrow, or well, Friday rather. And this is all theatre to
Oh,
you. Yeah.
oh, well, not only that, but I know for again, I broke the story that Comer and Trump spoke prior to Comer putting out the subpoenas. And, I mean,
Right.
you can
Okay.
understand. James Comer is a diehard Trumper.
Yeah.
He is not going to bring anybody up there. He's not going to report. That could hurt Trump.
Yeah.
This is another part of the machine. So okay, so one part of the machine is you have the DOJ. The DOJ is really that's Pam Bondi. She's gonna, she's handling the paperwork. The other part is you had of that DOJ, you had what's his name, Todd Blanche, to go on and work out what Maxwell. Because remember that what people need to understand, it's not that Maxwell is going to be making up stories.
No, no.
It's he's going to be leaving out.
Select.
It's a lot, right?
She's going to be selectively telling
Right.
the truth.
And
Yes.
that's a lot easier because when you tell the
Yeah.
truth, then you just don't tell, and you're not being pried to tell the whole truth, and nobody's forcing you to tell the whole truth, and you're allowed just to tell this part of the truth. It becomes very strong, and that's what they're counting on. They're counting on that Comer, because Comer is the place for the people, for Fox Media, for the Showtime. Because look what happened right after the first person he had in there was Bill Barr. So not only is Bill Barr also on their team that no matter what, he's going to go in there to protect and
Yeah.
cover up because Bill Barr's not out there for the truth. But even with Bill Barr in there, Comer comes out and the only thing he said out of the whole testimony,
With
he
the
said that
trust.
Bill. Thank you. This it's not about. This is how they're so stupid. This is how they give it away. What about the victim? What about all the other girl? We okay. Forget Trump. We know it's not about Trump. What about everybody else? But even there, Garcia came out the next day and said, "Wait a second. release the transcripts. That's not everything. That's not true. He didn't clear Trump completely. So now it looks like Barr might have said something about even Trump in the transcript, but that's why they have the control. They're holding it closed door, and that's again one. It all goes again back to what election reform. Why is Donald Trump trying to steal the 2026 midterms? Because he understands all of this that's going on, Vicky. He understands very well. He sees the polls. He understands the big ugly bill is not loved by the world. He understands that people do not like ICE running around stealing people off the immigrants off the street. Some of his own. I mean, just think about ICE has been deporting like people. Forget about even a regular Americans. They've been deporting his own mega. Like
Mhm.
the owner of Trump hamburgers, the leader of Spaniards for Trump. I mean, their own, like, so it's he knows he's at the lowest ratings. The only way he could stay in power, the only way he could not allow all of this to come out is if he, does what he's doing is, rig the 2026 elections and figure out a way to stay. Because otherwise, absolutely, Vicky. I mean, they can't get away with it. Because if you have the Democrats control the House and they have Maxwell in front of them, it's a totally different
Oh,
question.
yes,
and,
yes.
and not only that, but we will have the victims' voices heard. See, that's the problem. This is the biggest problem. They're listening to a pedophile. They're listening to a criminal. They want us to believe, but they won't listen to the victims. They won't
Mhm.
listen to the actual victims. They're saying, wait a second, she's the one that took my panties off. She's the one that because of her, I went there. I wouldn't have went there if it wasn't for her. I didn't trust him. I trusted her. She's the one that told me to. I mean, the sick. They're not. This is the sick part that pisses the hell out of me, Vicky. That the victims have to have a special day, September 3rd, I think it is, and I want to make sure everybody knows out there. So we should support and whatever we could do to make sure that the victims' voices are loud and heard. Not
Yeah,
Max was fake, phony
yeah,
story that she's gonna do.
yeah. 100%, Lev. So let me ask you finally, the last time you and I talked, you said, and and you sort of, in a weird way, if Trump, you could be very useful to President Trump with all your connections. I mean, have people in the administration reached out to you at all?
No, because well, in the beginning, as you know, there we've had certain, different contacts with different folks and around. But I'll tell you, I realized from my sources and also from what was going on that you see, when me and you spoke, I was still on the belief that Trump was getting played to such a
Right.
degree where I could come in there and help him, because
Yeah.
get the situation and get the upper hand on Putin and
Yeah.
get the situation. Now he's so far gone the way Steve Witkoff has maneuvered and negotiated behind the closed deal, that shadow diplomacy and the structure where they're far gone because now they are partners. Putin
Mm.
see and now what we're gonna see
Yeah.
slowly, I don't know how slowly, it might be even really quickly, but we're going to start seeing sanctions being taken off. We're going to start seeing airlines start going back and forth. We're going to start seeing business, and Trump is going to translate that into more money for the United States, just like he did with the Qataris. Well, who cares? They gave me an airplane. They gave us $5 trillion. You should be happy. And it's going to be that type of effect. And he's counting on a couple of big things. First of all, that that Putin takes over the Donbass area in the next month or so, because that's what I'm hearing. Putin's promising Trump that he's going to take over quickly, and then they'll be able to do some sort of frozen ceasefire at that moment, because at that point they'll control all those minerals and all those land rights and all those, where now they'll be able to do business with Trump with Ukraine. I mean, it's sick to even think about, Vicky, what their plans. But also the other thing that and nobody's talking about, and I'm the only one, but you're gonna you watch my words, is Nord Stream 2. That's the other part of what Witkoff and Kirillov have been discussing, because they've pitched Trump into energy dominance. That through Nord Stream 2, they bypass all the Baltics, bypass Ukraine, and if the United States controls Nord Stream 2 with the Russians, they will control European energy also, between the LNG and everything
Yeah.
else. So there, I was also thinking of, but then it sealed the deal for me when I heard Trump come out and talk about Nord Stream 2, saying, I'm the one that canceled it, but Biden put it back in. And when he started talking about it, I was like, there we go. Here it comes.
Wow.
Saying to you. It was like, see when you know somebody that well, and it's like playing poker. It's hard
Yeah.
for the regular person, but like I see the telltales. Like, even I'll give you another small thing he does that people don't realize, but I know Trump very well. Like, it's part of the MO. It's part of the brainwashing. I don't know if you've noticed, but lately there have been pictures coming out of leaders after they meet with Trump. He gives them a tour of the White House souvenir shop. And inside the souvenir shop, he gives each and every one of them a Trump 2028 hat. It's not just like that, folks. Trust me when I tell you. Because it's part of that, constant. And then
Yeah.
when the hat is given, the conversation is like, people are talking about, they want me, and like, I don't want to do this. I mean, I don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're, if the country needs me, and if the people need, I mean, like, I'm trying to peace. You know how he talks. You know
I
what I'm
do. I do.
saying.
I do.
And it's these small things that he does that are such tells of what he's planning on doing, and that's why what I'm hoping for is that, because it's great to have a great platform on Substack, and we're doing great. We're making a difference. Like, look, we're breaking news and that, but it would be so much different if we had some leadership in the Democratic Party that had
Mm.
enough brains. And I'm not doing to insult them, but if they're listening, like people like Pritzker, Holcomb, Newsom, that are on the front lines fighting with Trump right now, that are dealing it. Like, they should be calling me every day and saying, "Lev, please come over here." Because one thing that we at Mega, when we were part of Mega, what we had on them, you know why Trump knows Newsom so well? Because we had Kimberly Guilfoyle. And I
Yeah.
know Kimberly very well. And see, that people don't understand shit like that.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying to you? To have an ex-wife in your camp,
Yes.
it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And to be able, what I'm hoping for is that maybe they wake up enough, because I don't want to be using my sources or breaking this stuff because to get 10,000 people to watch it, or 100,000. I want
Yeah.
to
You want to actually
say,
campaign. You want to affect change. I hear
exactly.
you.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying to you? And that's what I'm trying to for them to get to, because they're going out, they're getting these consultants, they're getting these. The funny part is 99% of all these consultants in the Democratic Party, I don't know how they could consult anything to do with Donald Trump. They were never near Mega. They've never been near Donald Trump. They don't know anything about that whole cause ideology or any like that. So how do you not try to bring in people that were part of that? And
Yes. To get
them
an
as your
understanding.
to sit at your round table, that when you're talking about that, to get a point of view. And that's what is it was mind-boggling to me during the election. And I was very close to the Bidens, and uh, inside I'm pissed off at them also, that Harris and the Biden, because I offered it then, that they played their, and I think things could have been different. And now I'm watching the same thing, and so I really hope that eventually, because time is running out, that somebody like Governor Newsom, because I really think he right now has enough, excuse me for my French, but cojones, to
Mhm.
what he's doing, that with the stuff that I could give him, I think he could really do some damage and
Run with
help
it.
the country with Donald Trump. He could really, and that's the whole thing, Vicky. But you know what? In the meantime, we do what we do. You know,
We do what we do.
we build it. We're building our family, our movement, and thank to each and every one of you. And you know, we'll have about 1,000 people here. Please make sure you continue subscribing to people like Vicky, like my son Aaron. My independent journalism is the only thing you guys have left, and you know, truth tellers and whistleblowers like me, because I'm not a journalist. It's the combination of people like myself that have been on the inside that could bring and get this information, and have independent journalists like Vicky Ward, like Aaron Parnas, like the Midas guy, bring it the right way without spin, without lies, and bring you the truth that you could be able to make change and do the right thing. So it's extremely important that each and every one of you not only subscribe, but go out there and spread the message. You know, take that and go bring 3, 4 more people to the platform, because trust me, I tell you, yes, 1,000 people is great, but when they do their things, they have millions of people watching.
Yeah.
They have people like Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. They have corporate machines. They have more money, especially once with this crypto stuff. The other thing, Vicky, that people don't talk about, and I always say, follow the money. You know, the one thing you've never heard so far. You've heard crypto people investing that money to him that are from the Qataris,
Yeah.
from the Middle East, from here, from South America. But have you heard one Russian? No. You haven't heard one Russian crypto donate a lot of money or show up to one of his crypto what's up.
No.
Trust me when I tell you, they're bigger in crypto than all of these guys.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes why
Wow.
it would be so essential, and what's it called. So that's what one of the things that right now, one of my messages to everybody is, you know what, we have our voices, you have your phones, you have your emails. Well, do your job out there, go out there, and you know, let them know, and let them know, because it's enough playing games. We need to put together a real team. Like, you know, we need to be, just think about it. They want to go in, how, you know, they do these echo chambers. This is why I give an example. You have Bernie Sanders going out there putting 20, 30,000 people, and the media is like, look at this. Wow. Guys, I don't want to burst your bubble, but that's the same 20, 30,000 people they're going to vote. Those are loyalists. He did not bring
Mhm.
anybody over. Nothing changed. It was just a show, and that's great. But for us to be able to win, we need to be able to go into right now. While you see this whole Epstein thing, it's destroying MAGA. And MAGA is all split. They're all divorced, but they're not going to go and talk to Bernie Sanders. They're not
No.
going to talk to AOC, but they'll talk to me.
Yeah.
They'll listen to me because I was one of them. I understand what they're feeling. I could feel their pain and accept it and explain to them how to deal with it and how to move on, because that's what we need right now. We need to right now get that UFA to, so this way he can't rig and steal it. And if we do that, then with 2026, we get back the majority, and then we start slowly but surely getting back our democracy. Because Vicky, it's not
We
going to
get some
happen overnight.
transparency.
And it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take time, because the damages that he's already caused all over the world and inside our own democracy, we're going to pay for it for a little time to come. But the quicker we stop him, the quicker we get it back, the quicker we could start healing, the quicker we could start mending, and the quicker we could start making a better future for our kids and grandkids.
Well, on that note, Lev, thank you. Very, very powerful and fascinating.
Thank you,
Thank
Vicky.
you
Thank
so much for your time.
you, Vicky. Take care. Bye bye.